This is my first time with Persona 4 Golden, and to cut straight to the chase, I'm absolutely loving my time with it. I'm going to take you through why I believe jumping in 2023 is still an absolute must for weebs and RPG fans all over. To give you some context, I consider myself a bit of a lapsed anime fan. Growing up, I adored the very conventional anime shows that appeared on Cartoon Network, Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, and also Bleach. I got older, I continued to hold on to some of my childhood through Dragon Ball and Pokemon specifically, and have dabbled when animes that have made a big splash hit the scene. Major shout out to One Punch Man and My Hero Academia, although it's definitely one I need to get back to. Persona 4 originally released in 2008 for the PlayStation 2 and was later remastered for the PlayStation Vita in 2012. Persona originated as a spin-off from another Atlas series, Shin Megami Tensei, and has since exploded in popularity. Back in December, it was announced that the Persona series had sold almost 17 million units, with Persona 5 and its spin-offs accounting for half of those total units. Back in 2016 was the first time I had even heard of Persona, and I was enthralled by the presentation and style that Persona 5 oozed. In 2017, Persona 5 hit with staggering critical acclaim, and I was desperate to jump in. However, I really had no idea what I was getting into. I saw the turn-based combat, I saw the life sim, but I really wasn't sure about the journey I was about to begin. It took a little while for me to get into, however I found myself absolutely falling in love with the characters, and the calendar system really scratched an itch. It's hard to put down as you look to complete maybe just one more day. Why is my experience with Persona 5 related? Well, because it was my first experience with the series like a lot of other gamers. I spent over 120 hours with Persona 5 at release and loved my time with it. I'd always been interested in going backwards to jump into the older titles, but I didn't really have a way to do so. The announcement of Persona 3 and Persona 4 Golden coming to modern hardware made me so excited, as my inner weeb could thrive again. So what's it like going backwards to a game that originally hit 15 years ago? Does it still hold up? Is it still fun? Is it worth the universal acclaim that it continues to receive? Let's discuss. Firstly, let's talk about the story. Persona 5 clearly draws a lot of inspiration from Persona 4 Golden, which follows a high school student who moves to the rural town of Inaba, where a series of murders have been taking place. The protagonist and his group of friends soon discover that they have the power to enter an alternate world inside televisions, where they must battle monsters known as shadows and rescue victims who are trapped inside. I've rescued a few victims from the TV realm now, which involves a particular character's repressed feelings about themselves manifesting in a shadowed doppelganger. Once you defeat the doppelganger, the victim's repressed feelings are acknowledged and accepted before forming their own persona, joining you on the journey to uncover the murder mystery. So far, there has been a lot of twists and turns that are keeping me hooked throughout my playthrough. The characters are all unique and likeable, each with their own backstory and motivations, and the way they interact with each other feels very natural and believable. The voice acting is also top-notch, with all the characters having unique and memorable voices that really bring them to life. Shout out to Yuri Lowenthal and Laura Bailey, you may know as Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson in Marvel's Spider-Man PlayStation exclusives, and as well as Troy Baker, who Bailey has worked with several times, most recently as Abby and Joel Miller from The Last of Us Part 1 and 2. One of my problems with Persona and many shows, games and movies within the anime genre is the heavy-handed sexism and misogyny that is often presented at an attempt at humour. In Western culture, these sorts of jokes have become more and more outdated, crude and even unacceptable. In Persona 4, your female friends are often sexualized by peers and even teachers within the classroom. I think the genre has a long way to go, and given the same crude attempt at humour is seen in Persona 5, I would hope that they veer further away from it in future iterations in the series. With that aside, The gameplay is a mix of dungeon crawling and social simulation. Each day is spent either entering the TV realm, spending time with friends, and building relationships or social links. Building these relationships is not only rewarding in terms of the story, but also provides benefits in battle. For example, a stronger relationship with a party member can unlock new abilities and combos in battle. Or you can spend time improving your social stats, building your knowledge, diligence, expression to engage with particular activities and characters within the world. If you're familiar with Persona 5 and its confidant system, you'll understand Persona 4 instantly and why it's important to manage your time effectively, because there is a lot that you can do. I'm finding myself almost addicted to the one more day mantra that consumed over 120 hours of my life back in 2017. Playing out like a graphic novel, the game is very text heavy, with every interaction taking the focus off of the 3D models that you control to a text dialogue box with a second headshot of the character you're interacting with. This form of dialogue and engagement has allowed the game to age gracefully, as the 2D design aspects of the game are still better than a lot of UI systems and designs in more contemporary games. The dungeon crawling is a big step back from Persona 5 with less elaborate environments to explore. So far they've fallen into a long corridor with treasure boxes and enemies to fight. Persona 5 was a lot larger in scale in comparison. However, for me personally, the story and characters are the reason I keep coming back. Keep in mind that this game is 15 years old and it's still very satisfying to play. The combat is turn-based and allows for a lot of strategic depth, with the player able to exploit enemy weaknesses to gain an advantage. It's very comparable to Pokemon and shares a lot of the same elements that can be used within enemy interactions. Fire, ice, electric attacks, for example. You can choose to allow your friends to be controlled by the game's AI. I, however, prefer to be in the driver's seat, ensuring that each and every opportunity to exploit Shadow's weaknesses are explored. The game's difficulty did seem higher than my experience with Persona 5, and there are additional layers within Persona 5 that made it an easier experience. However, 4 remains fun all the same. Once you complete a battle, you will also go through a card-style system that randomizes your rewards for beating your enemies. You can claim new personas and additional skills and XP, for example. While it doesn't have the visual flair that Persona 5 does, you can clearly see where the inspiration has come from. The all-out attack still gives you a rush of excitement as you down and overwhelm enemies with a combined attack from your party. The sound and visuals complement each other tremendously. Without 4's style, you would not have 5. One of the standout features of Persona 4 Golden is its excellent soundtrack. The music is just as enjoyable as Persona 5's, which is, to be honest, an all-time great. There is a wide variety of genres and styles that fit perfectly within the game's themes and atmosphere. You'll find yourself tapping your toe the entire way through dungeons, although I have noticed it's not as prominent as you enjoy everyday life in Inaba. In terms of visuals, Persona 4 Golden still holds up very well in 2023. The game is showing its age, however it still looks and runs great on modern hardware, with the Xbox Series versions seeing the biggest benefit. Switch and PlayStation versions seem more aligned and won't output 60 frames per second, unlike its Xbox counterparts. If you can get past the aged 3D models and textures, you'll find yourself enjoying your time. The character designs are all very well done, with each character having a distinct look that fits their personality, although as mentioned previously, the game has clearly aged, and it is an obvious step back from 2017's Persona 5, which have fresher models with more engaging environments and NPCs that fill your screen. Overall, I'd highly recommend Persona 4 Golden to anyone looking for a deep, engaging RPG with a great story and characters. Even though the game was originally released in 2008, it still holds up very well in 2023. The remastered versions on modern hardware are definitely worth playing if you, like me, were a huge fan of Persona 5. The games are now on PlayStation consoles, the Nintendo Switch, as well as Xbox Gamepass, where I'm currently playing it. It's an excellent game that can be streamed on cloud with its turn-based nature fitting perfectly. The game has a lot of content and, from what I understand, a lot of replay value, although if it's anything like Persona 5, I know that even just one playthrough will consume a significant amount of time. If you're a fan of RPGs or just looking for a lengthy game to sink your teeth into, I can't recommend Persona 4 Golden enough.
Persona!